It's your fault the company lost this much money. Everyone's paycheck next month is hanging by a thread. We're only asking you to apologize. Not get down on your knees. Who are you making that ugly face for? Jason Cole's sharp, smug voice pierced into my ears like a red-hot needle. I stood under the spotlight on the annual banquet stage. The light was so blinding I could barely open my eyes. I only felt hundreds of eyes below me, like poisoned arrows, all nailed to my body at once. Anger, resentment, contempt. I could feel those emotions clearly, like a thick swamp trying to drag me under. The phone in my palm buzzed. A message from Serena Shaw. I did not even need to look to know what she would say. Jason just joined the company. He has no backing here. If he takes responsibility for such a huge mistake, everyone will target him until he can't survive. You're different. You've been with the company for 10 years and led them all the way here. They're only angry for now. In 2 days, it'll pass. Exactly as expected. I stared at those cold lines on the screen. The corner of my mouth moved upward against my will. But I could not squeeze out even the smallest smile. The phone buzzed again. As long as you nod and apologize, I'll agree to have a child with you. A Quinn family child. Boom. Something inside my head seemed to explode. 7 years. We had been married for 7 years. I had waited 7 years. She had finally loosened her stance. But the condition she gave me was to take the blame for the man she loved. A blame heavy enough to crush a person. How ironic. I slowly lifted my head and met Serena's commanding, urging gaze below the stage. She stood in the crowd, still so dazzling. A perfectly tailored burgundy gown wrapped around her figure, making her skin look snow white and her aura impossible to ignore. But behind her stood Jason Cole, the intern who had caused this disaster. She protected him without a trace, hiding him behind her body. He only showed half his head, looking at me with a provocative and triumphant gaze. My heart cooled inch by inch, seeing that I still refused to speak. Serena's brows tightened. Her patience had clearly run out. She strode onto the stage, snatched the microphone from my hand, and spoke for me. He's stubborn and refuses to lower his head. So I'll apologize to everyone on his behalf. Her voice was clear and bright, carrying a soothing power. In an instant, the restless atmosphere below the stage was pressed down. Also, I'll make the decision. His salary for the entire year will be deducted, and the money will be used to give everyone some benefits as compensation. Whispers rose in the audience. The tension clearly eased. Serena thought she had taken control of the whole situation. When she turned back to look at me, her eyes carried a trace of charity that seemed to say, "Look, I solved it for you." But the moment she turned around, I raised my hand expressionlessly and removed the work badge hanging from my chest. That metal badge had been with me for 10 years. I threw it casually onto the edge of the podium. No need to go through all that trouble. My voice was not loud, but through the microphone that had not been turned off, it spread clearly through the entire venue. I quit. Your company reverses right and wrong. I'm afraid I'm not good enough for it. The entire venue fell silent. The calm on Serena's face shattered inch by inch like a delicate mask. She did not know that what I held in my hands was 90% of the company's core clients. If she forced me out, this company we had built together would collapse within 3 days. And she would carry a debt so huge she would not even dare imagine it. After that brief, dead silence, the employees below the stage exploded. "Ethan Quinn, are you insane? You caused us to lose so much money. And you won't even apologize. You made a mistake and you're still acting so tough. Do you really think we're easy to bully?" Serena's face turned completely pale. Her fingertips moved rapidly across her phone screen before she shoved the screen in front of my eyes. "Jason just entered the industry. It's normal for him to make mistakes. Have you forgotten how you almost quit because you were harshly criticized over one tiny mistake back then?" That line of text was like a dull knife sawing back and forth across my chest. Of course I remembered. When I first entered the company, I lacked experience and typed one wrong word in an email to a client. My supervisor scolded me in front of everyone, saying someone as careless as me did not deserve to stay in the design industry. I hid alone in the stairwell and cried until I almost could not breathe. Serena found me there. She handed me a tissue and told me everyone made mistakes. The important thing was to know how to correct them. I'm doing this only because I want to make up for the grievance you suffered back then and give a young person a chance to change. A new message popped up on the screen. Stop throwing a tantrum. Your old friends are watching. Do you really want them to be completely disappointed in you? She was always like this. She could always find a grand, righteous reason to decorate her selfishness until it looked noble. She said she protected Jason because she was trying to make up for the old me. How affectionate that sounded. How moving. I had once foolishly believed it too. When Jason clumsily knocked over coffee and stained an important design draft for a client, Serena only smiled and told him to be more careful next time. At the time, I had even thought with emotion that she had truly changed. She had become tolerant. When Jason printed the wrong materials for an all-hands meeting and delayed the whole process, Serena only said lightly, "He's new. It's normal." At that moment, I was even touched. I thought she had become so patient with this clumsy young man because he reminded her of who I used to be. "Don't you think the way he fumbles around looks exactly like you back then?" she once said, holding my arm with a bright smile. "I do all this because I want to compensate the old you. The one who got yelled at by his supervisor and hid somewhere crying just because he made a tiny mistake. Back then, my heart beat like a drum. I thought she had remembered every grievance I ever suffered. I thought every ounce of protection she gave Jason was because she loved me and saw my shadow in him. Until that day, I had a high fever. My head was spinning. But I still forced myself back to the office to deal with an emergency. While replying to an important email, I accidentally put a decimal point in the wrong place. By the time I noticed, the recall window had already passed. At the all-hands meeting after that, Serena pointed at my nose in front of every employee and scolded me for an entire hour. New people can be forgiven for mistakes because they don't know better. Ethan Quinn. How many years have you been in this position? How can you make such an unbelievably low-level mistake? Have you used your brain for so long that it's turned into mush? You can't even handle something this simple. Those unbearable insults smashed into me like hail. And Jason had been sitting below, a faint smile on his mouth. From then on, I understood. Compensation. Loving the old me through him. All of it was a lie. She simply did not love me anymore. So when that contract worth more than 100 million yuan was handed to me, and I discovered that Jason had typed hundreds of millions instead of 10,000s in the pricing unit, my heart had already sunk. I called him into my office and pointed out the fatal error. From beginning to end, I did not say one harsh word. I only asked him to correct it. But he kept making the same mistake again and again, as if deliberately challenging my bottom line. I finally lost patience and told him to reorganize the entire document from start to finish. His eyes reddened on the spot, as if he had suffered some terrible injustice. Then he turned and ran out. Soon after, Serena kicked open my office door and stormed in. If he made a mistake, let him fix it. Why did you have to scold him? Or are you taking revenge because I criticized you before? So now you're venting your anger on Jason. You're a senior employee. He's a new intern. How can those two things be compared? I patiently explained that I had not scolded him. I had only pointed out his mistake. Even a newcomer should have basic professional standards. But she did not listen. She insisted I was bullying a junior employee. On the spot, she kicked me out of the project team and sent me on an urgent business trip for a month. At that time, I had a strong premonition. This project was going to fall apart. Sure enough, by the time I returned, the project was completely dead. Because of repeated low-level mistakes in the contract, the client lost all trust and terminated the agreement directly. The hard work of the entire company vanished into nothing. And Serena, in order to protect her little lover, wanted to place that whole black pot directly onto my head. Too much. Far too much. Since she had gone this far, she could not blame me anymore. I took out my phone and, right in front of her, sent a message to a major client whose cooperation intent I had just secured. One strong enough to revive the company's cash flow. Mr. Warren, I'm sorry. Today's signing ceremony is cancelled. We'll discuss any future cooperation later. When Serena saw me still looking down and typing, impatience almost spilled out of her face. The whole company is waiting for you to apologize. Are you really going to waste everyone's time here? I put away my phone, lifted my eyes, and looked at her coldly. I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I apologize? Serena's brows rose, and she was about to speak. But Jason beside her suddenly began acting. He sighed with a strange, sarcastic tone. Ethan is one of the company's old heroes. Of course he shouldn't be punished. Forget it. Let's just say it was all my fault. Interns are born to take the blame anyway. I'll kneel down and apologize to everyone. Okay. As he spoke, his knees bent as if he really meant to kneel. Serena's expression changed drastically. Without thinking, she rushed over and pulled him up. Her voice was softer and more distressed than I had ever heard. What nonsense are you saying? How could this be your fault? Looking at that deeply affectionate scene before me, I felt my stomach churn. So she was not born hot-tempered. She knew how to be gentle. She knew how to speak softly. It only depended on who the person was. It was not that she could not. It was that I was not worth it. While I stood there in a daze, the whispers around me drilled into my ears. If you made a mistake, just admit it. What's the point of holding on like this? I never realized Ethan Quinn was the kind of person who doesn't dare own up to what he did. He's one of the founding veterans. Of course he thinks he's above normal people like us. Disappointment, contempt, distance. All kinds of gazes fell on me. Even my closest friend at the company, Luke Lane, could not help sending me a message. Ethan, I know you like Ms. Shaw, but everyone in the company knows she and Jason are a couple. Can you stop damaging the team's interest just because you're fighting Jason? My head buzzed as if a hammer had struck it. What? Serena and Jason were a couple. Full of confusion, I replied. Who said that? When did they get together? Luke quickly sent me a string of voice messages and photos. During the month I was away on business, Serena drove Jason to and from work every day. Co-workers had photographed them holding hands at the cafe downstairs from the office. They went to art exhibitions together. They visited night markets together. Jason had posted countless intimate photos of himself with Serena on social media, each caption ambiguous. And Serena liked every single one. The latest photo was taken at a scenic area. Serena leaned on Jason's shoulder, smiling sweetly. The location tag was the very city I had traveled to for work. So while I had been running around for the company, exhausted like a dog, she was traveling romantically with her new lover in the same city. My heart felt as if an invisible hand had crushed it. It hurt so much I could barely breathe. This company had grown after Serena and I married. We had built it step by step from a tiny office. Back then, to avoid gossip among employees and to prevent the company from being affected, she was the one who suggested keeping our marriage secret. To avoid suspicion, I woke up an hour earlier than her every day and squeezed onto the bus alone. At the company, we acted like strangers. Even when we spoke privately, we had to carefully choose the timing, afraid someone might see. Once, a new employee jokingly said he felt something unusual between me and Ms. Shaw. Serena exploded on the spot, swearing to the heavens that if she were my girlfriend, she would be struck by lightning. That decisive attitude completely erased everyone's suspicion. But now, she allowed Jason to publicly act as her boyfriend. She let rumors about them fly all over the company. For Jason, she could turn against me in public and sacrifice the company's interest. So the so-called fear of workplace gossip, the so-called big picture of the company, all of it was simply because she did not love me enough. When she truly loved someone, she wanted the whole world to know. And I had been a joke from beginning to end. The farce on stage continued. Jason was being supported by Serena, but he still maintained a half-kneeling posture, looking like a shameless rogue who would not get up unless I agreed. I pulled the corner of my mouth into a cold smile. Doesn't your leg get numb squatting like that? Serena was finally enraged by my stubbornness. She pointed at my nose and screamed. If someone makes a mistake, apologizing is natural. What are you acting so noble for? Do you have to force someone else to carry the blame for you? Do you know that because of you, everyone's salary this month will be delayed? The bonuses that had already been confirmed are all gone. The word salary fell like a spark into dry grass. The employees' accumulated anger ignited instantly. Someone threw a paper ball first, smashing it into my face. Then notebooks, folders, pens. All kinds of office supplies flew toward me like rain. Serena instinctively protected Jason completely in her arms. She allowed all those hard objects to smash toward me. I failed to dodge in time. The sharp corner of a folder scraped across my forehead. A sharp pain exploded. Warm liquid slid down my cheek. But my heart felt as if it had been thrown into a 1,000-year ice cellar. Dead silent. She said she protected Jason to make up for the old me. But now, she incited employees to hate me. She watched me get attacked without blinking. In her eyes and heart, there was only Jason. Since she was this cold and heartless, then I would not hold back either. I wiped the blood from my face, took out my phone, and opened an audio file. The thief crying thief. Today, I'll let everyone see exactly who is forcing an innocent person to take the blame. I pressed play. Yesterday, when I returned from the break room and passed Serena's office, I happened to hear her conversation with Jason. I recorded it casually. Serena. I clearly checked it carefully. Who knew I still missed punctuation errors? Now the client wants to terminate the contract. What are we going to do? That was Jason's voice. Full of tears. You're not allowed to be this careless again. You can't carry this blame. I'll think of something. That was Serena's comforting voice. Should we give the project lead position back to Ethan? Let him handle it? Absolutely not. You just joined the company. If you take the blame for something this big, the people who stayed up late for this project will tear you apart. Better to let Ethan Quinn carry it. He's an old employee. He has thick skin. A few scoldings won't matter. The recording echoed through the empty venue. Every word was painfully clear. The moment the truth was revealed, the whole venue fell into deathly silence. Those co-workers who had cursed me, and even those who had thrown things at me, all showed guilt and embarrassment on their faces. Then their angry gazes turned in unison toward Jason and Serena. With the lie exposed in public, Serena's expression shifted between blue and white. It was ugly to the extreme. She suddenly lifted her eyes and glared at me, as if flames were about to burst from them. Jason panicked too. But his reaction was quick. He immediately stood out with a righteous expression. This has nothing to do with Serena. It's all my responsibility. Serena instantly gave him a grateful look. Then she swept a contemptuous glance toward me and lowered her voice to scold me. You should learn from Jason. He knows how to help me out of trouble. Unlike you. You ungrateful man. Always going against me. I almost laughed from anger. The mistake was his. Wasn't it only natural for him to take responsibility? How did that become helping her out? How did it become sacrifice? As if he were the one suffering some terrible injustice. Have you forgotten? I raised a brow and reminded her word by word. This mistake was his to begin with. Serena was choked speechless. Her face turned the color of liver. Perhaps she also felt she could not keep her face anymore. She grabbed Jason and tried to leave. Wait. I raised my hand and blocked their path. My gaze turned toward Jason. A cold curve appeared at the corner of my mouth. What about the kneeling apology you mentioned just now? Your knees were already halfway down. Why are they straight again? Were you just teasing everyone? Or do you simply enjoy holding a horse stance and wanted to show us a talent? The employees, who had been holding in anger, instantly found an outlet. Exactly. We stayed up so many nights for this project. Why should his typo ruin everything? Forget kneeling. Even if he knelt here until he died, it wouldn't be too much. Framing someone else and playing the victim. Does he think we're all fools? Seeing Jason scolded until his eyes reddened and his body seemed about to collapse, Serena's heart ached. Enough. She shouted sharply. The client's termination is their problem. It has nothing to do with anyone here. Disperse. The room fell silent for a few seconds. No one expected Ms. Shaw, who had always prided herself on fairness and discipline, to openly protect someone like this. Afraid that the crowd would keep pursuing the matter, she pulled Jason and almost fled the scene. The remaining employees came over one by one to apologize to me. I waved them off and said it was fine. I knew they had only been manipulated. The real person I should blame was Serena Shaw, who could no longer tell right from wrong. 7 years of marriage. A business we built together. In her eyes, All of it could not compare to an intern she had known for 1 month. Since that was the case, there was nothing left for me to miss. I returned to my desk, took the resignation letter I had prepared long ago from the drawer, and under the shocked or sympathetic gazes of my coworkers, knocked on Serena's office door. Rip. She tore the resignation letter to shreds. Paper scraps fell like snow. Don't even think about it. Then she began repeating that tired old explanation, saying she was good to Jason only to compensate me for the past. I quietly watched her perform. Only when she had spoken until her mouth went dry did I let out a scoff. I'm still alive and standing right here. If you truly feel you owe me, why not compensate me directly? Why put all that effort into an outsider? Serena was instantly speechless. I no longer had any desire to argue with her. No need to explain anymore. Serena opened her mouth. She seemed to want to say something, but not a single word came out. That mouth, which usually handled investors, clients, and media with perfect ease, now seemed sewn shut. Looking at her like this, I only found it laughable. 7 years. I had never seen her so helpless. Back when the company almost went bankrupt, she stayed awake for 3 days and nights, eyes bloodshot, yet still persuaded investors until they nodded. Now, facing one sentence from me, she did not even have the courage to refute it. Ethan Quinn. After a few seconds, she finally found her voice. If you dare leave, then between us, it's completely over. I smiled. Serena Shaw. Wasn't it already over between us long ago? Her face turned white, as if something had stabbed her. I turned and walked toward the door. Ethan. She called from behind me. Can you calm down? The company is something we built with our own hands. You can't just leave whenever you want. My steps stopped. Not because I softened, but because of the sheer entitlement in those words. I turned back and looked at her. Serena Shaw. Do you remember 3 years ago, when the company's capital chain broke? Who sold his wedding ring to fill the hole? She froze. Do you remember 2 years ago, when a competitor maliciously poached half our core team? Who stayed at the office for 2 months without going home and held up the design department alone? Her lips began to tremble. Do you remember last year, when your mother was hospitalized and the medical fees were hundreds of thousands? Who took out all his savings without a word? I walked back step by step until I stood in front of her, looking down at her. You don't remember any of it. You only remember whether Jason's outfit looks good today. You remember whether you liked every photo on his social media. You remember how to clean up the mess whenever he makes a mistake. Serena's eyes reddened. There was no ripple in my heart. In the past, that expression would have made me feel so distressed that I would have given her my life. Now, I only found it ironic. I'll have a lawyer draft the divorce agreement, I said lightly. As for company shares, I'll only take the portion I deserve. And that mess your little lover created, you can clean it up yourself. I opened the office door. A circle of employees had already gathered outside. Every word I had said inside, they had heard clearly. Ethan. Luke stood at the front, his face full of guilt. I didn't know. I really didn't know you and Ms. Shaw were. It's fine. I patted his shoulder. Just do your job well from now on. Don't let people use you as a weapon. I passed through the crowd and walked toward the elevator. Behind me came Serena's hysterical shout. Ethan Quinn. Come back. Come back. I did not turn around. The moment the elevator doors closed, I heard the sound of something smashing inside. The crisp shattering of glass sounded exactly like the final roar as the fortress of my marriage collapsed. When I walked out of the company building, winter wind poured into my collar, cold enough to pierce bone. But I felt lighter than I ever had before. My phone kept vibrating in my pocket. First came a string of apologies from Luke. Then messages from other coworkers. Some were angry on my behalf. Some worried about where I would go next. The last message came from an unknown number. Only one short sentence. Mr. Quinn. Have you made your decision? I stared at that message for a long time. It came from an offer sent through a headhunter half a month earlier. From one of the top companies in the industry. The offer was generous. Design director. Triple my salary. Equity options. At the time, I hesitated. Because of Serena. Because of the company we had built together. Because of those so-called responsibilities. Now, looking back, I had been ridiculously foolish. I replied with one word. Yes. The phone buzzed immediately. Tomorrow morning at 10. Our boss would like to speak with you personally. I'll send the address. I put away my phone and looked up at the gray sky. A new life would begin tomorrow. At 9:50 the next morning, I stood on the top floor of an office tower downtown. Outside the glass curtain wall was the outline of the entire city. Traffic flowing through the concrete jungle like blood through veins. Mr. Quinn. Please come in. The receptionist pushed open the conference room door for me. Inside sat a man in his 40s wearing a charcoal gray custom suit. His presence was restrained. But his eyes were extremely sharp. I had spent 10 years in this industry and had seen many major players. But the pressure this man gave off ranked easily in the top 3. Ethan Quinn. I've heard a lot about you. He stood and reached out first. I'm Adrian Chen. I shook his hand. Mr. Chen. You're too kind. Sit. He gestured for me to sit down. Then sat across from me. There was no small talk. He went straight to the point. I heard about what happened yesterday. Letting you go was the stupidest decision Serena Shaw will ever make in her life. I picked up the tea in front of me and took a sip. Not answering. Adrian smiled. Don't be nervous. I didn't invite you here just to offer you a position. I want to work with you. Work with me. Yes. He leaned forward slightly. I have a list of Quinnmark Design's core clients. You have one too. Coincidentally, 60% of the clients on those 2 lists overlap. My eyelid twitched. Adrian continued. What I mean is simple. Instead of letting the 90% of client resources in your hand rot in Serena Shaw's hands, bring them here. Why did those clients stay with Quinnmark Design? Because they trusted you. Not because of the name on the sign. Wherever you go, they will follow. He was right. In the design industry, what you were really selling was trust. A client handed a project to you because they trusted your professional ability and responsibility. During my 10 years at Quinnmark, I personally watched every major project. Behind every client relationship was my private contact. Those 90% of clients were something I had accumulated over 10 years. One day at a time. One project at a time. They were not Quinnmark's assets. They were mine. What does Mr. Chen want? I set down the teacup. Simple. Adrian raised one finger. You come here. But not merely as design director. I'll give you an independent business division. You hire the team yourself. You choose the projects yourself. Profit split, 60% to you. 40% to me. I only want one thing. Move your system and reputation from Quinnmark over here. Intact. That condition was even better than I had imagined. One more thing. Adrian took a folder from his drawer and pushed it toward me. This is a supplemental non-compete and protection agreement drafted by our legal department. Don't worry. It isn't meant to restrict you. It's meant to protect you. Serena Shaw will not let you go easily. I opened the folder and flipped through it. The clauses were detailed. If Serena tried to suppress me through legal methods or other means, the company would provide full support from legal and PR. How long have you been preparing this? Mr. Chen. I looked up at him. Adrian smiled. Since you argued with that little brother-in-law of hers a month ago. This circle is small. News travels fast. I knew then that you and Serena Shaw would fall apart sooner or later. A month ago. Back then. I was still foolishly cleaning up Jason's mess and fantasizing that Serena still had feelings for me. It turned out everyone outside had already seen through it. Only I had been living inside a dream. I'll sign. I picked up the pen and signed my name at the end of the contract. Adrian stood again and reached out. Welcome aboard. Can you start tomorrow? No problem. When I walked out of Adrian's office, my phone rang again. This time, it was the company's finance director, Mark Xiao. He and I had a decent private relationship. Ethan. You left in a hurry yesterday. There's something I forgot to tell you. Mark's voice was very low. That project Jason ruined. The client is not only terminating the contract. They're also demanding liquidated damages. The contract says clearly that if the project ends because of major negligence by Party B, compensation is 30% of the total contract value. I calculated the figure. Nearly 30 million yuan. What was Serena's reaction? I asked. She called me into her office this morning and asked whether we could move some money from the account first to fill the hole. I told her the account doesn't have that much cash flow. You just left yesterday. And 2 of the 9 core clients already called today to ask about the situation. Their tone wasn't good. I was not surprised. Among those 9 clients, 5 had been brought up by me personally. Their trust in me was stronger than their contract with Quinmark. Once I left, their first reaction would absolutely be to wait and observe. Maybe even to reconsider entirely. Help me pass a message to Serena. I said into the phone. I won't take any of those 9 clients away. But I won't help her keep them either. Let them decide for themselves whether to stay or go. Mark was silent for 2 seconds. Ethan. You're trying to finish her completely. She forced me. I hung up. That afternoon, my WeChat was bombarded. The first person who came to me was Mr. Warren, the client I had messaged on stage to suspend the signing. He called directly. His tone urgent. Ethan. What's going on between you and Ms. Shaw? I heard you resigned. Yes. Mr. Warren. I said truthfully. I resigned yesterday. Then our project. I'll make proper arrangements on my side. If you're interested, you can continue working with me. I changed companies. But I'm still the same person. The other end was silent for a few seconds. Then Mr. Warren burst into laughter. Good. I trust you. Kid. Send me your new company's information. I'll have my people connect with you tomorrow. After hanging up, I did not celebrate too early. Because I knew Serena would soon realize exactly what kind of person she had lost. The next morning, I officially joined the new company. Adrian kept his word. He directly gave me the entire 12th floor as an independent division. It was empty. There was nothing. Desks, chairs, benches. Everything had just been bought. The only employee was me. I'll give you 2 weeks to recruit, Adrian said, standing in the empty office. No upper limit on salary budget. Whoever you want. Talk to them directly. I nodded. In my mind, I had already begun calculating the list. At Quinmark, Luke was not the only person close to me. There were several core people in the design department whom I had personally trained. Their skills and chemistry with me were both solid. If they stayed under Serena and Jason, they would only become more suffocated. But I did not rush to poach anyone. First, I would do my own work well. At 10 in the morning, Mr. Warren's team arrived and signed the formal contract with me. Immediately after that, 2 other old clients called one after another, both saying they were willing to follow me. In one morning, I signed 3 projects. At lunch, Adrian wandered into my office with a boxed meal. He glanced at the contracts piled on my desk and raised his brows. Not bad. Ethan. Your efficiency is 3 times faster than I expected. The clients are giving me face. I said with a smile. Don't be modest. Adrian sat across from me. Now I'm a little curious about what's happening on Serena's side. I had someone ask around just now. Apparently, she held an all-hands meeting this morning. Guess what she said? What? She said you betrayed the company and took away client resources. She told everyone to unite and fight a public opinion battle against you. She also said you'd had ulterior motives for a long time. And that recording yesterday was prepared in advance because you wanted to destroy her reputation. I almost spat out my food. She really said that. Word for word. Half the employees below probably believed it. After all, you left too suddenly. And some of them don't know the truth. I put down my chopsticks and wiped my mouth. Mr. Chen, please keep an eye on this for me. I'm not in a hurry. Let the bullet fly for a while. Adrian looked at me and smiled knowingly. At 2 in the afternoon, Luke sent me a message. Ethan. Guess what? Jason just posted a long message in the company group. He says he was framed. Says everyone had responsibility for that project. And asks why everyone is targeting him alone. He also says your recording was taken out of context and deliberately used to frame him. I replied with one word. Oh. Luke sent another message. Ms. Shaw directly backed him up in the group. She said everyone should not let an outsider's provocation affect unity. The group atmosphere is extremely awkward now. No one dares speak. Normal. I typed. Don't get involved for now. Protect yourself. I know. Luke replied. Oh. Right. One more thing. After you left, several old employees from the design department privately came to ask me whether your new company is hiring. They want to follow you. Looking at that message, the corner of my mouth curved. This was the effect I wanted. I would not actively poach. Let them choose for themselves. The more Serena made trouble, the more she leaned toward Jason, the colder the old employees' hearts would become. Some of these people had followed me for 3 years. Some for 7. They knew better than anyone who truly did the work and who dragged everyone down. Tell them to stay steady for now. Once I settle things here, I'll hold an explanation meeting. I replied to Luke. Okay. Also, I almost forgot. Ms. Shaw scolded Finance Director Zhao today because the account couldn't gather that 30 million in damages. The client's lawyer letter has already arrived. I put down my phone and leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. 30 million. That was no small amount for Quinmark. The company had expanded too quickly over the past few years, and cash flow had always been tight. Last year, Serena insisted on that brand upgrade plan and burned a large sum of money. Now, with core clients leaving and liquidated damages hanging overhead, Quinmark's cash flow would probably not last 3 months. Serena Shaw, how many cards do you still have left to play? Over the next week, I was busy until late at night almost every day, recruiting people, building the team, connecting with clients, sorting out project processes. Building an independent business division from zero was 10 times more work than I had imagined. But I did not feel tired. Instead, I felt a sense of fulfillment I had not felt in a long time. Working for myself and no longer cleaning up someone else's mess. That feeling was unbelievably satisfying. On the 4th night, Luke brought 3 old employees from the design department to have dinner with me. At the table, they took turns complaining about Serena Shaw's ridiculous moves over the past week. You didn't see it, Ethan. Liam Carter, one of the senior employees, said with a bitter smile. Ms. Shaw now takes Jason to every meeting and lets him sit right beside her. She lets him interfere in every project. The problem is, Jason Cole can't even tell Photoshop layers apart. Yet she actually lets him review design drafts. Isn't that insane? And that's not all. Another coworker added. A major client came to the company for an inspection 2 days ago, and Ms. Shaw actually had Jason receive them. The client asked one professional question. Jason stammered for half a day and couldn't answer. In the end, Luke had to step in and save the situation. Luke spread his hands. I could save the situation, but not the client's heart. When they left, their faces were dark. I poured each of them a glass. You've worked hard. Hold on a little longer. Once my team is set up, you can come over anytime. Liam lifted his glass. Ethan, don't say another word. I'll hand in my resignation tomorrow. Me too. Count me in. Looking at them, warmth rose in my heart. These people were the most precious assets I had in this industry. Skilled. Reliable. They had followed me for years and had never caused me trouble. After a few rounds of drinks, Luke lowered his voice. Ethan, there's one more thing. I heard Ms. Shaw is already looking for investors. She wants to use financing to fill the hole in the company's books. Financing. I frowned. With Quinmark's current reputation and financial situation, what investor would dare put money in? Hard to say. Luke shook his head. You know Ms. Shaw. She's very good at talking. Maybe she really can fool someone. I said nothing, but I remembered it. The next day at work, I asked my assistant to look into recent financing activity in the design industry. Sure enough, an investment firm had contacted Quinmark 2 days earlier. Apparently, the conversation had gone well. I stared at the name of that investment firm for a long time. Then I suddenly laughed. One of the partners at that firm was Adrian Chen's college classmate. That afternoon, I knocked on Adrian's office door. Mr. Chen, there's something I'd like your help with. Adrian was reading documents. He looked up at me. Go ahead. Quinmark is looking for financing. There's a firm called Far Voyage Capital talking with them. I heard one of the partners is your classmate. Adrian raised a brow. Old Joe. Yes. He was my college roommate. Could you pass him a message for me? Tell him that putting money into Quinmark right now is throwing it into the ocean. If he wants to hear the specific reasons, I can arrange a meeting and explain everything in person. Adrian leaned back in his chair and narrowed his eyes at me for a while. Then he smiled. Ethan, you're trying to cut off Serena Shaw's last path out. She cut mine first. I said calmly. Fine. Adrian picked up his phone. I'll call old Joe now. Let's have dinner together tonight. You can talk to him face to face. That night, I had dinner with Adrian and Mr. Joe from Far Voyage Capital. I told him everything. Quinmark's current financial state. The client loss. The chaos in project management. The whole story behind the 30 million yuan penalty. After Mr. Joe heard it all, he stayed silent for a long time. Finally, he sighed. Serena Shaw used to have a decent reputation in the industry. How did she end up like this? People change. I said. Only 3 words. Mr. Joe nodded. Fine. I understand. We'll stop the Quinmark project on our side. He lifted his glass and clinked it with mine. Ethan, I heard you're out on your own now. If there's a chance in the future, we can cooperate. Absolutely. When I walked out of the restaurant, the night wind was cold, but my chest was hot. Serena Shaw, you blocked every road for yourself. One step at a time. Now, let's see how you clean this up. Another week passed. My team had already begun taking shape. The empty 12th floor had turned into a busy, energetic office with more than 20 people working hard. Meanwhile, Quinmark was getting worse and worse. Luke sent me updates every day. Mr. Warren's group of old clients had mostly completed their transition. Almost 1/3 of Quinmark's design department had already left. Most fatal of all, Serena forcibly promoted Jason Cole to Deputy Director of Design. As a result of the 2 new projects he touched, he ruined one completely and half ruined the other. Yesterday, the client stormed into the company and cursed everyone out. Luke said over the phone. Ms. Shaw's face was black the whole time. Jason hid inside the office and didn't dare come out. What was Serena's reaction? I asked. She sent an all-staff email this morning, saying there would be a company-wide meeting at 3 this afternoon. Everyone has to attend. No leave allowed. I checked the time. It was 2:50. Luke, go to the meeting. Let me know what happens. Okay. After hanging up, I sat in my office and waited. At 3:10, Luke's message arrived. Ms. Shaw exploded at the meeting. She said the company is facing difficulties and everyone must get through them together. Then she named and criticized the employees who resigned, saying they were misled and were traitors. She also hinted that you were poaching people and engaging in unfair competition. How did the employees react? I replied. Terrifyingly quiet. Everyone had their heads down, playing with their phones. No one responded. The more she spoke, the more emotional she became. In the end, she cried and said the company was 10 years of her hard work and that she couldn't let certain people destroy it. I snorted. 10 years of hard work. Coming from her mouth. Those words sounded especially ironic. Then what? Then Jason Cole went on stage. Luke typed faster. He said a huge pile of loyalty speeches, saying he would stand with the company through hardship and would never run away like certain people. He made it sound so emotional that several people below actually laughed. They laughed. Yes. He didn't notice. He became even more moved as he spoke, saying he knew nothing when he first joined the company, and Ms. Shaw gave him a chance. So he would definitely repay her trust with action. By the end, his eyes were red. I rubbed my temples. These 2 really were a perfect match. One dared to perform. The other dared to believe. Is the meeting still going? Not over yet. Ms. Shaw said she's about to announce an important decision. She hasn't said what it is. I put down the phone and leaned back. An important decision. Based on what I knew about Serena. When she was cornered like this, she could only do one of 2 things. Either smash the jar after it was already cracked, or take a desperate, terrible step. Either way, it would only speed up Quinmark's destruction. 20 minutes later, Luke sent another message. Ethan, do you know what she announced? She said the company is moving to the suburbs to reduce office costs. She also said they'll terminate the headquarters lease and keep only 1/3 of the current office space. I froze. Then I laughed out loud. Moving. Terminating the lease. Serena was planning to move the company out of the core business district and into a cheaper office. It sounded like cost-cutting. But for a design company, that was basically cutting off its own veins. What was the core competitiveness of a design firm? Talent, creativity, industry reputation. If you move from the CBD to the suburbs, first, talent loss will only accelerate. Second, what will clients think? What will suppliers think? What will partners think? That move was the same as telling the entire industry, Quinmark is failing. We are shrinking. How did the employees react? I asked. They exploded. Several people stood up on the spot and questioned her, saying the suburb location was inconvenient and many people had children to pick up. Ms. Shaw fired back directly. She said if they couldn't accept it, they could resign. She wouldn't stop them. And then the conference room door opened. Who? Mr. Warren. I sat up sharply. Why was Mr. Warren there? No idea. He just walked in. Everyone was stunned. Ms. Shaw was stunned too. Her face turned extremely ugly. Mr. Warren walked to the front and asked Ms. Shaw. Ms. Shaw, I heard you're moving. In that case, my contract doesn't need to be renewed either. My fingers tightened around my phone. Ms. Shaw asked what he meant. Mr. Warren said, I came here only to inform you. The following projects have all been signed with Ethan. From now on, Quinmark is no longer on my cooperation list. Then he left. The entire conference room was silent for at least a minute. Then Ms. Shaw exploded. How? She smashed the microphone and pointed at the door. Calling Mr. Warren an ingrate and cursing you for having no loyalty. She cursed for 5 full minutes. No one below dared speak. In the end, she slammed the door and left. Jason chased after her. The meeting ended just like that. I put down my phone and exhaled slowly. Mr. Warren really was ruthless. He chose to make that announcement during Serena's all-staff meeting. In front of every employee. He had torn away the last piece of Quinmark's covering cloth. With that, the little authority Serena still had in the employees' hearts shattered completely. 3 days after that staff meeting, nearly half of Quinmark's design department resigned. The ones left were either trapped by long-term contracts or had not found their next job yet and were temporarily surviving there. Serena's desk was piled with resignation letters. She sat in her office, looking at that thick stack of envelopes, as if all her strength had been drained. The coffee on her desk had gone cold. She picked it up and took a sip, then frowned at the bitterness. Jason pushed open the door and walked in, wearing his usual innocent expression. Serena. 2 more people outside want to resign. Let them go. Serena did not lift her head. But we're already short on people. If more leave. I said. Let them go. Serena slammed the table. Coffee splashed from the cup and stained the resignation letters. Jason was so frightened he took a step back. His lips moved, as if he wanted to say something but did not dare. Serena looked up at him. Her eyes were full of bloodshot veins. She had barely slept these past few days. She looked as if she had lost a full layer of herself. Her usually perfectly styled hair hung messily around her shoulders. Her delicate makeup could no longer hide the exhaustion beneath her eyes. Jason. Her voice suddenly softened. Tell me, did I do something wrong? Jason froze for a second. Then he quickly walked over, crouched in front of her, and held her hands. Serena. How could you be wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. Ethan Quinn is just too cunning. He wanted to leave a long time ago. So he dug this pit and waited for us to fall into it. But Serena's eyes reddened. The company was built by me and him together. 10 years. A full 10 years. Now he's gone. And he's taking my clients and my employees with him. He's trying to drive me to death. Jason looked heartbroken. He's too cruel. Serena. Don't be afraid. I'll always stay with you. No matter how hard things get for the company. I won't leave. Serena looked at him. A complicated emotion passed through her eyes. She reached out and touched his face, as if confirming that he was truly still there. Jason. Do you know? I used to think Ethan Quinn was the only person in this world who understood me. We started the company together. Ate instant noodles together. Stayed up until dawn together. I thought we would keep walking like that forever. Her voice dropped lower and lower. But later. I felt tired. He was too dull. He never said anything. He always made me guess what he was thinking. The things I wanted. He could never give me. Jason tightened his grip on her hand. Serena. I understand you. I'm willing to do anything for you. Serena looked at him and suddenly smiled. That smile held exhaustion, unwillingness, and a trace of self-mockery. Do you know? When I married him, I said we should keep it secret. And he agreed. I said work came first. And he cooperated. I told him not to act too close to me at the company. And he really stopped looking at me more than necessary. Back then, I thought he was sensible, obedient. But later, I realized. Her voice grew softer. He just didn't care about me that much. Jason hurried to prove himself. I'm not like that. I'll tell you I love you every day. I'll hold your hand when we go shopping. I'll post our photos on social media. I'll never make you feel hidden away. Serena's tears finally fell. She leaned on Jason's shoulder, as if she had finally found someone to rely on. But she did not know that in Jason's pocket, his phone screen was lit. On it was a message from an unsaved number. Jason. What's going on over there? How much money can Serena Shaw still move? Jason glanced down quickly. Then he quietly turned off the screen. He patted Serena's back gently. His voice tender. It's okay. Serena. Everything will get better. In my new office. I watched a video Luke had sent me. It had been secretly filmed by someone inside Quinn Mark. The video showed the scene in Serena's office. Although it was shot from far away and the quality was blurry, I could clearly see Serena crying on Jason's shoulder. This video is spreading like crazy in the employee group. Luke messaged me. Everyone basically confirms now that Ms. Shaw and Jason are that kind of relationship. Some people still half-doubted it before. Now the evidence is solid. I looked at the two figures clinging tightly together in the video. My heart was calm. To say I felt nothing would be a lie. After all, we had been married for 7 years. Even if there were no feelings left. Seeing my wife leaning on another man's shoulder and crying was not something any man could feel completely indifferent about. But this discomfort was no longer the same as that heart-ripping pain from before. It was more like watching a farce happening to someone else. Only a faint trace of sadness remained. Ethan. Are you okay? Luke asked. I'm fine. I replied. Let the video keep spreading. It helps us. Understood. Oh. One more thing. Finance Director Zhao called me just now. He found a problem. Jason's reimbursements over the past month are abnormally high. Last month alone, he claimed more than 300,000 yuan in various expenses. Entertainment, travel, training, all kinds of random things. 300,000. An intern reimbursed over 300,000 in 1 month. That number was so ridiculous it was impossible to ignore. Did Mark say what kind of expenses they were? I asked. He did. Several large ones were marked as preliminary project negotiation expenses, but Mark checked the corresponding project numbers. They don't exist at all. My eyes narrowed. Now this was interesting. An intern who had been at the company for less than 2 months had reimbursed more than 300,000 in fake expenses. And the person who approved those reimbursement forms was Serena. She signed them personally. Did Mark trace where the money went? I asked. He did. Several payments went into the account of a small company called Mingchen Consulting. The legal representative's surname is Cole. Mark suspects it's a shell company Jason registered himself. I inhaled slowly. Jason Cole really had guts. He used Serena's trust to fabricate expenses inside the company. Then transferred company money into his own shell company. At the minor level, this was an internal violation. At the major level, it was fraud. Did Serena know about this? I thought about it carefully. Most likely, she did not. With her personality, if she knew Jason was doing this behind her back, even if she liked him, she would not tolerate it. Then why did she approve those reimbursement forms? There was only one explanation. Every time Jason brought documents for her to sign, he spun a beautiful story and fooled her. What does Mark plan to do? I asked. He said he'll stay quiet for now and collect the evidence. If the company collapses and these things come out, he'll be responsible as finance director too. So he has to protect himself. Tell him to collect everything and keep it safe. I said. When necessary. He can send me a copy. Understood. After hanging up, I leaned back in my chair. The more I thought about it, the more I felt Jason was not simple. A fresh intern dared play this big. Shell company. Fake reimbursements. Forged projects. These things required a certain level of experience and nerve. Unless he had come to Quinmark with a plan from the very beginning. The thought startled even me when it appeared. If Jason deliberately approached Serena, deliberately made those low-level mistakes to create conflict, deliberately ruined the project and framed me, then everything made sense. His goal had never been to work properly. It was to use Serena's feelings to take money from the company. I told Luke my suspicion and asked him to quietly look into Jason's background from the side. That night, Luke messaged me back. Ethan. You were basically right. I had someone check Jason's past work history. Before coming to Quinmark, he worked at 2 other companies. He stayed less than 3 months at each. And both companies later had financial problems. As expected. I sneered. He's a professional scammer. Even crazier. I heard that at his last company. He also had rumors with the female boss there. Later, that woman's husband found out and kicked him out. I closed my eyes and connected all the clues in my mind. Jason Cole. He specifically targeted female managers. Used an ambiguous relationship to gain trust. Then used his position to steal money. After finishing, he would leave and move on to the next target. Serena was his next prey. And that prey was not only devoted to him. She had destroyed her 10-year marriage and the company she built with her own hands for him. How ironic. Another week passed. Quinmark's situation became even worse. 70% of clients were gone. 40% of employees had left. The money on the books could only last a little over a month. Serena searched everywhere for investment and loans. But Far Voyage Capital, which had almost agreed to invest, suddenly stopped the cooperation. The bank also refused new loans because the company's operating situation had deteriorated. With nowhere left to turn, she finally called me. I was in a project meeting when I saw her caller ID. I hesitated for 2 seconds before answering. Ethan. Her voice was terribly hoarse. I want to talk to you. About what? About the company. Do you have time now? I can come to you. I glanced at the coworkers in the conference room and said, I'll send you the address. Half an hour later, Serena appeared in my new office. She looked as if she had aged 10 years. Her hair was tied carelessly. She wore a wrinkled sweater. The foundation on her face could not cover the dark circles under her eyes. The Serena of the past would put on full makeup even if she had worked until 3 in the morning. Her current appearance was enough to show how much pressure she had been under. She stood before my desk, looking around this independent office that was even larger than hers. A bitter smile pulled at her mouth. You're doing well. Thanks to you. I said coldly. Sit. She sat in the chair across from me. Her hands were clasped together on her knees. Her posture looked exactly like it had back when we first met investors. Nervous. Yet pretending to be calm. Ethan. I know I was wrong. She got straight to the point. I want you to come back. I raised a brow. As long as you come back, I'll agree to any condition. I'll give you 40% equity. You'll be general manager. Everything in the company will be decided by you. Jason. I'll make him leave. He'll never appear in front of you again. As she said those words, there was pleading in her eyes. But there was more calculation. I knew her too well. With this humble posture, all she was thinking about was how to get me back to clean up her mess. Serena Shaw. Do you think I'm stupid? I leaned back in my chair and looked at her calmly. She froze. You want me back because you have nowhere else to go. The clients are gone. The employees ran. The money is gone too. You came to me only because I still hold the contacts for 90% of the core clients. As long as I go back, they'll return. You're trying to save the company. Not me. Serena's face paled. Her lips trembled. Ethan. That's not what I mean. I really know I was wrong. I'm sorry. The matter between you and Jason. I handled it badly. But what? I cut her off. He made the mistake. And you protected him. I was forced out. And you didn't care. Now that you're at the end of your road. You remember me. Serena Shaw. Why do you think I would agree? Her eyes reddened instantly. Tears gathering. Because of our 10 years together. Ethan. We were husband and wife for 10 years. Are you really cruel enough to watch me die? 10 years as husband and wife. When she said those words, my heart still moved. After all, that was 10 years. From our 20s to our 30s. The best decade of life. We had walked it together. But so what? 10 years of marriage could not compare to Jason, whom she had known for a month. 10 years of marriage. And she could watch me get attacked and injured. 10 years of marriage. And she could trample my dignity into the mud just to protect the man she loved. Serena Shaw. I stood, walked to the window, and turned my back to her. I'll ask you one last question. When you got together with Jason, was it because you truly liked him? Or because, as you said, you wanted to compensate the old me? Behind me. There was silence for a long time. Then she said, at first, I really did feel that he was like you. But later, I couldn't tell anymore. I turned to look at her. You never loved me. Did you? Serena's tears finally fell. No. I did love you. I really did. But later. You became busier and busier. You never told me anything. Being with you felt like living with a wall. I was tired of it. So you found someone completely opposite from me. Someone sweet-talking. Someone who knew how to coax you. Someone who circled around you every day. She could not continue. I returned to my desk, opened the drawer, and placed a document in front of her. This is the divorce agreement. I've already signed it. Read it. If there's no issue, let's handle it today. Serena stared at the agreement. All color drained from her face. The property division is simple. I don't want company shares. The house is yours. I walk away with nothing. If you sign, we sign. If you don't, I'll go through legal proceedings. She picked up the agreement with trembling hands and flipped through it. Then she looked up at me. Disbelief in her eyes. You really want nothing? I only want my new life. I said. Serena Shaw. Sign it. We should have ended long ago. She held the pen. Her hand shook violently. And for a long time, she could not bring herself to write. At that moment, my office door was pushed open. Adrian walked in, followed by two people in uniform. Ethan. Sorry to interrupt. Adrian glanced at Serena. Then looked at me. This is Ms. Shaw. Yes. I nodded. Adrian gestured to the two people behind him. One of them stepped forward and showed identification. Ms. Shaw. We're from the Economic Crime Investigation Unit. There is a case involving economic fraud that requires your cooperation. Please come with us. Serena's face turned pale as paper. When Serena was taken away, she was completely stunned. She sat in the police car, looking through the window at me standing at the office building entrance. Her eyes were full of terror and confusion. She probably still had not figured out how she had become involved in an economic fraud case. Adrian stood beside me, watching the police car drive away. He suddenly sighed. That woman really lived herself into a tragedy. She deserves it. I said. Adrian patted my shoulder. Let's go back to the office. Legal has already prepared the materials. This time, Jason Cole won't be able to run. That afternoon, I received the preliminary investigation results from the Economic Crime Investigation Unit. Jason Cole had used the shell company Mingcheng Consulting to siphon nearly 2 million yuan from Quinmark Design through fake project expenses, forged contracts, and fabricated procurement. Most of the money had been squandered. Part of it had been transferred to an overseas account. And every reimbursement form had been signed and approved by Serena. Although she had been deceived, she was the company's legal representative and the final financial approver. No matter what, she had to bear corresponding joint responsibility. More importantly, Luke's side provided a new recording. It was a phone call between Jason and an unidentified person after last week's all-staff meeting. In the recording, Jason said smugly, "That stupid woman trusts me completely now. Give me 2 more months, and I can move all the money out of the company account. By the time her company goes bankrupt, I'll be long gone." Luke had someone secretly place a recording pen near Jason's workstation. That was how the audio had been captured. The evidence chain was now complete. That night, Jason Cole was taken away by police from Quinn-Mark's office. At the time, Serena was still at the Economic Crime Investigation Unit giving her statement, so she was not there. But the video quickly spread through the employee group. When Jason was taken away, he clutched his phone tightly, trying to call Serena. When the police took the phone from him, he collapsed onto the floor, crying like a child. "Serena Shaw won't save you," a coworker beside him said coldly. "She was taken away this afternoon too." Jason lifted his head. His face was covered in snot and tears. The corner of his mouth twitched several times before he squeezed out a sentence. "Impossible. She likes me so much. She'll definitely save me." No one answered him. 2 officers held him up and dragged him out of the office building. Along the way, every coworker stared at him like he was a cockroach. Someone even spat at him. "Trash. Scumbag. Filth that scams women for money." Jason lowered his head like an eggplant beaten down by frost, withered beyond recognition. Meanwhile, in the interrogation room at the Economic Crime Investigation Unit, Serena finally understood the entire truth. When the investigators told her that Jason had siphoned nearly 2 million yuan from the company and was planning to move all the company's remaining cash within 2 months, her expression shifted from shock to disbelief to collapse. It changed so fast it looked as if someone had slapped her again and again across the face. "Impossible." She shook her head, tears falling uncontrollably. "He told me his family was struggling. He said his mother was sick and needed money. That was why I approved those reimbursements." "Ms. Shaw," the investigator said expressionlessly, "according to the evidence we have, Jason Cole's mother is in excellent health and has never suffered any serious illness. All those so-called medical invoices were forged." Serena's mouth opened. Not a single word came out. It was as if a basin of ice water had been poured over her from head to toe. Her entire body trembled. Her eyes were hollow. "Jason lied to me," she murmured to herself, her voice so soft it could barely be heard. The news of Jason and Serena being taken away spread quickly through the industry. Early the next morning, Adrian called me into his office and threw a newspaper in front of me. The front page headline read, "Rising design firm Quinn-Mark exposed in economic fraud case, partner and legal representative Serena S. taken away for investigation." "Overnight, the whole industry knows," Adrian said, leaning back in his chair with one leg crossed over the other. "Quinn-Mark is finished." I placed the newspaper back on the table. "As expected. But there's something you may not know." Adrian took another document from his drawer. The lease on Quinn-Mark's office building was personally guaranteed by Serena Shaw. Now that the company is entering bankruptcy liquidation, she personally has to bear the remaining 2 years of rent plus penalties. Add the 30 million yuan client compensation. Her personal debt will be no less than 50 million. 50 million. That number was bigger than I had imagined. Serena would not be able to pay it off in her lifetime. What will happen to her? I asked. Bankruptcy is unavoidable. As for the economic fraud case, although she is a victim, she will most likely face administrative penalties because of management negligence, fines, consumption restrictions, criminal responsibility. That depends on the final investigation results. It probably won't be too serious, but she'll definitely lose a layer of skin. I nodded and did not ask further. Serena's ending was written by her own hand. She could not blame anyone else. That afternoon, I received a copy of a court summons. Serena had appointed a lawyer to file for divorce. It seemed she had finally accepted reality and agreed to the divorce. I signed the summons and gave it to my assistant to send to the law firm. 3 days later, the divorce procedures were completed. I walked away with nothing. The house, car, and savings were all left to Serena. But to her, those things were now only assets that would soon be seized by the court. On the day the divorce agreement was signed, Serena called me from the detention center. Her voice was hoarse and exhausted, as if something had crushed it. "Ethan, I signed the agreement. I want to apologize to you." As she spoke, her voice choked. "I'm sorry. Everything before. I lost my mind. Jason Cole. He lied to me about everything. I was blind and treated him like treasure. Are you done? I asked calmly. The other side was silent for a few seconds. I'm done. All right. I cleared my throat. Serena Shaw. I don't hate you. But I will never forgive you either. From now on, we go our separate ways. Never contact me again. Ethan. I hung up. Then I blocked her number. As I did those things, my hand was steady. My heart was calm. No hatred. No sadness. No pleasure either. It felt like finally placing an old memory neatly into a box, locking it, and pushing it into the corner of my mind. From then on, I would never open it again. 1 month later, my business division had grown to more than 40 people. Our business volume had quadrupled, making us one of the most profitable departments under Adrian's company. Meanwhile, Quinn-Mark Design officially entered bankruptcy liquidation. The office building we had rented together. The office where we had stayed up countless nights. The first group of employees we had hired together. Everything disappeared completely with the removal of that sign. I stood before the floor-to-ceiling window in my new office, looking at the endless traffic below. Suddenly, I remembered that winter 10 years ago. Back then, Serena and I rented a tiny office less than 30 square meters. 2 desks. 2 computers. 1 broken sofa. That was everything we owned. We were so poor we could not even bear to order takeout. Every day, we brought food from home, heated it in the microwave, and called it a meal. But back then, there had been light in her eyes. She pointed at the office buildings outside and said to me, "Ethan, one day, we'll move into a building like that." I said, "We will." Later, we really did. It was bigger and better than she had ever imagined. But once people change, everything becomes empty. "Mr. Quinn." My assistant knocked and entered. "The client meeting at 3 is ready. Everyone has arrived. It's time to leave." I came back to myself and straightened my suit collar. "Let's go." The afternoon meeting went smoothly. The client was one of the largest real estate groups in the country. They wanted a full design package for a high-end residential project, with an 8-figure budget. I brought my design director and project lead with me. The other side had 7 or 8 people attending. A serious lineup. Halfway through the meeting, the person in charge suddenly said, "Mr. Quinn, I heard you used to be one of the founders of Quinn-Mark Design." I smiled. "Yes. But that's all in the past now. That company has had some trouble recently. We've heard about it." The man shook his head. "It's a pity. Their reputation in the industry used to be decent." Then he looked at me again. "But perhaps it's also a good thing. It's our luck that you can work with us now. You're too kind." I lifted my teacup. "To a good partnership." After the meeting, I led my team out of the conference building. It was drizzling outside. My assistant followed behind with an umbrella and opened the car door for me. I got into the car. My phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. "Hello. Is this Ethan Quinn? This is Mr. Zhou from Far Voyage Capital. Do you remember me? We had dinner with Mr. Chen last time." "Mr. Zhou. Hello. Of course I remember. I have a project here and would like to talk to you about it. There's an emerging design company looking for financing. The founder comes from your industry, and I think it might be a good fit for you. If you're interested, shall we have dinner tomorrow night?" I thought for 2 seconds. "All right. I'll come tomorrow night." After hanging up, I leaned against the back seat and watched the fine rain outside the window. Adrian was right. My new life had only just begun. The past, whether painful or sweet, had already been turned over. What I had to do next was look forward, walk forward, and make the road ahead better and better. I took out my phone and sent Luke a message. "Are you free this weekend? Call Liam and the others. Dinner's on me." Luke replied instantly. "I'm free. If you're buying. I'm always free." I smiled and put away my phone. The car merged onto the wide road and headed toward the company. The rain stopped. Outside the car window, a small patch of blue sky appeared. Sunlight broke through the gap between the clouds, making the whole city glow brightly. The road ahead was long and bright. 3 months later, my business division officially separated from the parent company and became a new design firm, Inkpath Design. On opening day, many people came. Adrian was the largest shareholder. standing below the stage to cut the ribbon for me. Luke, Liam, and the other old partners all came too. Each one wore a suit, looking even more impressive than I did. "Mr. Quinn, we're following you from now on," Luke shouted with a glass in his hand. "You can follow me," I said with a smile. "Just don't slack off during overtime." Everyone burst into laughter. After the opening ceremony ended and I saw off the last group of guests, I stood at the entrance of the new company and looked at the brand new sign. Ink Path. Ink. For craftsmanship and design. Path. For moving forward. Adrian had suggested the name. He said ink represented design, dedication, and the work of the hand. Path meant action, movement, and never looking back. I thought it was a good name. My phone rang in my pocket. I answered. It was an old client. "Mr. Quinn, I heard you opened a new company. Congratulations. As it happens, I have a new project here. Are you interested?" "Of course," I said with a smile. "You're welcome to visit the company anytime. We can sit down and talk properly." After hanging up, I turned and walked back into the company lobby. In the spacious, bright office area, young employees were busy at work. On computer screens, design drafts were beginning to take shape. In the hallway, someone hurried toward a meeting with coffee in hand. Everything was full of life, as if telling me, the new chapter had only just begun. I walked to my office and pushed open the door. Sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows, warming the entire room. On the desk was the opening gift Luke had given me, a photo frame. Inside was a photo secretly taken on my first day at Adrian's company, when I was shaking hands with Adrian. On the back of the photo was one line. "From today on, look forward. Don't look back." I smiled and placed the frame in the most visible spot on my desk. Then I sat down, turned on the computer, and began replying to emails. The world outside was still noisy. There would be competition. There would be challenges. There would be unknown difficulties. But I was no longer afraid. Because I had already walked through the darkest part of the night. And I had seen the dawn. From now on, every step I took would be toward the light. That's all for today's story. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment.